thanks for coming on the call today. Obviously, I've been sort of watching in the background through the internet how you've been getting on the last sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But yeah, what I'd like to do for the listeners is just sort of let you introduce yourself, give yourself a little bit of time to talk about your background and how you got into the alkaline diet and sort of what you're doing with the alkaline diet these days. So yeah, off you go.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Well, I'm Andrew Bridgewater. I'm a UK chartered psychologist, and I spend some of my time in the UK and some of my time in Cyprus, which is where I am now. And it's not that hot, actually, Chris. I hate to tell you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's about 12 degrees. I know, you're crying buckets, aren't you? And I actually came across the alkaline diet when I attended Tony Robbins' seminar in 2005, and that seminar is called Unleash the Power Within. I'm sure you've heard of it. Many of the people listening to this will have heard of it, UPW for short. And on the fourth day, they cover something called living health, because as Tony rightly says, if you're going to have any sort of chance of achieving these audacious goals that people start to set for themselves on a seminar like that, you need all the health, vitality and energy you can get. And a lot of people simply don't do well in life because they don't feel well. And I have to say, it wasn't all a brilliant story thereafter, because for the next 2 years, I did what some people sometimes do when they go to a seminar. They don't necessarily act on the information. I was still in the corporate world. I was a corporate trainer, sort of touring Europe, doing courses, staying in big hotels and eating too much, not getting enough exercise. And by 2007, the summer of 2007, that was, as I say, 2 years after I attended that seminar, I was weighing in at a hefty 14.5 stone or 200 pounds. Now, at 5 feet 8, which is my height, that's clinically obese. It's not good.
Right.
And there was a sort of defining moment, and I think this is often the case with people making a significant change. And Tony Robbins calls it threshold. It's the point at which you're no longer prepared to tolerate that level of pain in your life. And I got into a lift in London at the end of one of these busy days of corporate training. I was particularly tired. It'd been a tough group. And the lift had a 4-way mirror. Have you ever seen one of those mirrors, Chris, or seen yourself in one of those? It's quite staggering sometimes.
Yes, it sort of shows you from all angles.
Well, yeah. And I suddenly thought, gosh, that's what I look like to other people. I had no sense that it had got that bad. And at that moment, something tipped in my brain, and I just thought, okay, I know what to do. I just got to start putting this into practice. So I started drinking a green drink, 2 litres of that every day. I bought a folding bike, which I put in the boot of my car to go on courses, so if there was never anywhere to exercise, I could get some exercise. I started doing some more alkalizing in my my diet and in my lifestyle. And my approach is very holistic, and I'll talk more about that later. It's very much about what you think, what you drink, and then what you eat, rather than the other way around. And I lost 50 pounds in 6 months, which was terrific. I mean, I felt
absolutely
10, 15 years younger. It wasn't just the weight, it was the energy gain, the vitality. I started to want to achieve things again. Life had got into a bit of a rut by June 2007 in many areas, business, relationships. I was just, at 45, I thought, I haven't got a lot of time to turn this around. But so that was nearly 5 years ago now. So I lost the weight in 6 months. I've kept it off. And by the early part of 2008, I was ready to really share the story. And as luck would have it, I met up again with a guy called Mark Anastasi, who actually is known to a mutual friend of ours. And I started working with Mark. He mentored me to the creation of the AV diet, the Ad Vitality way of living, or as I'm calling it now, the Alkaline Vitality way of living, because that's exactly what it is. And that went on the website in November 2008, and I quit my job, and I've been working full-time on this business ever since. And I do what I love to do because I help people get healthy in order to live longer, happier, healthier lives. And it's not just the length of life that's important, it's the quality of that life. And it feels very blessed to do what I love to do. So very, very briefly, that's my story, Chris.
Oh, excellent. Well, yeah, that's certainly quite enlightening, because it shows that you're not just collected this information and distributing. You've kind of been from step one of being overweight and then working all the way through it with all the trials and tribulations that come along with achieving whatever goal it may be. And obviously yours at the time was sort of a weight loss, quality of life type goal.
Yeah, I think it was also an energy gain, and also I found that I was suffering a lot of stress in my lifestyle in many areas, not just at work but in relationships. And when you get healthy at a cellular level, what most people don't realize is your threshold for dealing with stress goes up dramatically, and you can handle so much more with ease.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people are struggling, particularly this time of year. There's a bit of a low mood goes on in January and February in the dark winter months. And actually, when you look after yourself, and particularly with the more alkalizing regime, which is not onerous, as I'll come on to explain, your ability to handle whatever life throws at you increases sort of exponentially. That was certainly my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Seeing people, working with people one-to-one, working with people in the classroom, you start to see that when you start working with people closely, and just the way they deal with life's, stresses just starts to change over time, which is excellent. So thanks for that little background. We've talked about, I've mentioned it, you've mentioned it, the alkaline diet. For people that may not have heard of that. I mean, there's a lot of diets out there. We've heard about the fad diets and things like that. So just describe to sort of us, me and the listeners, what is an alkaline diet? What makes it so different?
It's good to have the opportunity to do this. This word diet, first of all, needs a definition. It actually derives from the Greek word dietos, meaning way of living. And it's become rather bastardized, isn't too strong a word actually, in the context of dieting, which is this thing where people go into a painful state of denial and put themselves through all sorts of trials and tribulations with the explicit intention of losing a specific amount of weight, which, as I've come to realize, is actually looking down the wrong end of the telescope, because your